Talking Shirts is presented in partnership with White Oak Cottage. For more information, visit whiteoakcottage.co.uk.
Welcome. This is episode number 150 of Talking Shirts. I'm Mike of Hull KR Shirts, and today we're going to take a look at this 1964 to 1972 Hull KR away shirt. Now, this shirt is the oldest shirt within my collection. Episode number 149, we took a look at a match issue shirt to Jack Broadbent for the 2025 Betfred Challenge Cup final. Naturally, one of the more modern, newer shirts within my collection. So to do those two back to back felt really, really good as we hit that 150th episode milestone. I've been doing episodes of Talking Shirts now for 6 years, which is incredible really, and I'm really pleased that when I first set out that I decided to do fortnightly episodes, because I feel like we might have burnt through everything really quick, but it's nice to be able to see the evolution of my collection, but also the production elements of episodes of Talking Shirts as well. I would like to think that they've got better too, so I really hope you are still enjoying watching these episodes. Anyway, back to the shirt. So this shirt's got a very, very unique story around it, but how it came into my collection, and we will talk a little bit about that in part 2. Episode number 149 was quite a long episode, even after I'd edited out all the mistakes. So I've got a feeling that this one might be just as long too, because we have plenty to say. Shirts from this era are very, very hard to come by. A lot of them are really hard to be able to have true provenance as well in terms of what they are. Naturally, looking at this, there is nothing on here that tells you that it is a Hull KR shirt. Club crests actually didn't appear permanently on shirts until the late 1970s, although there is a version of this shirt kicking around with a crest on. I'm sure you will have seen it. It's from the 1964 Challenge Cup final where Hull KR took on Widnes. We were on the losing side that day at Wembley, but those shirts had a Hull KR emblem on them. This is just one of the standardised away shirts from various seasons, as I've said. I've kind of pinpointed it down to 64 to 72. Now, that's me guessing a little bit, purely because the evidence out there isn't massive in terms of being able to kind of prove this kind of thing. You'll have noticed I've got a kit history poster behind me, and a few of you have probably got this, but as much as it is useful, I'm not 100% sure that it is entirely correct. Just especially around the stuff that's sort of pre-1970. It's really difficult to find photography and evidence of what is what. Obviously, a lot of photography is in black and white, as you'll see as we progress through this episode. So it is really difficult to kind of prove these things, but the provenance behind this one and the story that comes with it makes it undoubtedly a Hull KR shirt. So the shirt itself, the first thing you notice is the long sleeves. I absolutely love long sleeves. It's something that I've kind of sort of grown into as I've got a little bit older. As I hit my early 20s, it was something where I was like, I'm kind of intrigued a little bit more about it. But, now I'm in my mid-30s, I really look back on these long sleeve shirts and the 3/4 ones with real sort of affection. It's something that I really enjoy seeing. So it is an all red shirt, and there is elements of white going on, as we have got a lovely turnover collar. It's a cotton-like material. It's the sort of shirt that you would call a classic rugby shirt. It certainly is all of those things and more. So yeah, we've got this turnover collar. It's white on the inside, white on the outside. That is quite thin, and in terms of the sort of the thickness of this shirt, it is actually quite thin compared with some of the thicker cotton shirts that we've actually seen used for rugby over the years. So yeah, this white turnover collar, we've got a couple of buttons in there. I did button a couple up just so it looked nice and neat on the mannequin. There is one up here at the top of the collar as well, which I haven't been able to button around the mannequin. We've got a layer of reinforced fabric going all the way around just to support that there. That is really thick. The buttons remain intact on this one, and it is in really good condition. As we progress down into the placket here, we have got this sort of rectangle of reinforced stitching, and that's to make sure that this placket doesn't rip. That's a consistent element across many rugby shirts. We've seen it on episodes of Talking Shirts all the way from the 70s, or the 60s in this case, all the way through to the 90s. This is something that was regularly used as a reinforced element to stop shirts from ripping. One thing that I found quite interesting about this shirt is where the reinforced stitching is, there is actually a little bit of a fold. You'll be able to make it out here. Look, you can see where the fabric doesn't quite lay flat, purely because that fold is there, look. Now, I thought this was just a one-off. Now, in the 1882 lounge at Craven Park, they have a shirt that was used in the 64 Cup final. I believe it was Flash Flanagan's, and they've got it framed next to his blazer on the wall. The next time you're in there, feel free to have a look at it. It's such an amazing piece of history. But that also has this little sort of fold within the reinforced stitching. So I'm starting to wonder if it was intentional. Maybe it adds an extra reinforcement layer, or I don't know, there may be some sort of interesting quirk about it. If anybody's got any information or anybody's noticed anything themselves, please feel free to let me know, because that is something that really does intrigue me. It's quite a strange uniquity to come across on a rugby league shirt. So as I mentioned earlier on, we've got no club crest, we've got no maker marker, we've got no sponsors. These are the cleanest shirts you will probably come across for rugby league. There just isn't elements of sponsors or anything on there. Now, one thing that I do know about this shirt is I know that this shirt was manufactured by Bukta, a British firm that produced quite a lot of shirts for rugby league clubs in this area. They've supplied them for Hull KR for many years. Many years. You just wouldn't necessarily know it, purely because they don't have that maker marker on the chest. But what they do have is they have a care label on the inside, which I will pop a picture up for you, that does say Bukta on it. So that's how we know that they manufactured these shirts. The long sleeve elements to these shirts is something that was quite important in the sort of the build up into rugby league. If you look all the way back to the formation of Hull KR, you'll be able to see that long sleeve shirts was very common. Obviously nowadays, you know, clubs do tend to offer the more short sleeved elements. ISC did produce some long sleeve shirts in the sort of mid 2000s. In the 2010s, I can think of Matt Parcell when he was at Leeds wearing long sleeves, and I'm sure there's some pictures of Rob Burrow wearing long sleeve shirts as well in that sort of modern era of rugby league. But it really is something that has kind of dwindled. That could possibly be due to the formation now of these skins that players sometimes opt to wear underneath a playing shirt, which has kind of negated the use for long sleeves. We are kind of seeing that across some football clubs as well. Kappa for Hull City, they don't produce any long sleeve shirts at the moment either. So it's definitely sort of a changing of the tide. But when we look back into shirts from the 60s and the 70s, and they've got these long sleeve shirts on them, I think it's absolutely fantastic. At the end of the sleeve here, we've got this cuff. There is a few holes starting to form in here, but a lot of that just comes with sort of wear and tear. I've noticed that some of my sort of long sleeve tops or hoodies, you know, when I've worn them, that is kind of where there tends to be the most sort of wear and tear on these shirts. There is a ripped effect going on there, but other than that, especially from the front, there isn't really too much to kind of complain about in terms of condition or damage or anything like that. It is such a nice looking shirt. Like I say, it's so clean, so plain, very good condition, no damage at all. So yeah, something that I'm really happy with. So that's been part one of Talking Shirts. We're just going to have a very quick break and a word from our sponsor. Then we'll talk about the back of the shirt, how it came into my collection and who wore it.
White Oak Cottage is a 2-bedroom luxury holiday cottage set in the stunning Lincolnshire Wolds. It has 2 ensuite bedrooms, a hot tub, wood burner, Wi-Fi, electric vehicle charger and is pet friendly. It is ideally situated in the Wolds, yet only 15 miles from the coast and 25 miles from the historic city of Lincoln. For more information, visit whiteoakcottage.co.uk.
Welcome back to episode number 150 of Talking Shirts. Before that quick break, we was talking our way around this 1964 to 1972 Hull KR away shirt, and here we are now with the reverse. So as you can see on here, we have got the squad number 14. That has been applied in black fabric on a white fabric patch to the back of this shirt. It was a very common application of how teams would put squad numbers on the back of shirts. The white obviously breaks up from the red, and the black stands out much better on the white than it would on the red. There is less concern in terms of TV back in these days, in terms of obstruction on the back of the shirts, but it must have been clear for the referee to be able to see. You think with these shirts, because they are cotton, they would hold mud and dirt so much easier than what these modern day shirts were. The modern day shirts, it would kind of not fall off the polyester, but with cotton it would kind of just absorb into it, which would make things much harder. So if that black number had been on the red background, that might have been really hard to have read. But with that white patch on there, that really does make all of the difference. Other elements that we've got on the back of the shirt, we've got some reinforced stitching that goes around the back of the neck there. That's just a thicker layer of fabric, again, probably just to stop it ripping down the back. Some shirts that we've seen have a weakness there, so that's why they put that element of that stitch in there, just to kind of reinforce that as best as they can. Obviously we can see that the return here of the back of the collar, really, really nice. Managed to get that to sit really, really neat on there, which is really, really good. So yeah, the number 14, this shirt was given to me by David Wainwright. David Wainwright made 100 appearances for Hull KR between 1966 and 1972. So we know that when David played for the club, and that has kind of helped me kind of pinpoint this to 64-72, because we know that this shirt was used in the 64 Cup final, obviously not this one here, but this style. So that helped us pinpoint that down, but it doesn't have a crest on. So that helped me know that it wasn't in the cup final, but we know that it could have been potentially from that era. So as I said in part 1, a lot of that comes from a bit of guesswork, but it's educated guesswork. It's looking at various different materials online, whether that be photography, videos, just information that's out there with regards to rugby league, but then also looking back at our kit history and trying to identify in which seasons we wore which shirt. Obviously in modern day terms we change a shirt every season. Previous to that we might have gone 2 seasons without changing, whereas now, back then, I apologise, back then shirts would last potentially for decades. You know, you look at the kit history poster, as I've mentioned earlier, and the amount of sort of seasons where it was just a white shirt with a red band. Then it might have been long sleeved, it might have been 3/4 sleeves, the band might have gone onto the sleeves, it might have just been on the chest. All these different elements have kind of been sort of modernised in terms of the modernisation of the commercialism that circles rugby league clubs and businesses these days to produce shirts year on year. So that's a little bit around how I've been able to kind of pinpoint this down to the years that it was used. Now, back then, there was no names on the back of the shirts. You used to wear whichever shirt was representative of the position that you was playing. Now, this one's got number 14, so that was the backs sub. And that was a role that David Wainwright played quite a lot during his career. In those days, you only came off if you was injured. So David was actually an unused substitute on quite a few occasions. When I did a little bit of research into David, I found out that he played 100 games for Hull KR, and in those 100 games he scored 13 tries and kicked 2 goals. But there was quite a lot of unused sub appearances as well. Now, when you are looking at the stats officially in terms of appearances, an unused substitute position doesn't count onto your number of appearances, and that's still the same for the modern day. So if you're watching a game of rugby league in 2026, Hull KR have 4 interchanges on the bench but only use 3 of them, that 4th player doesn't get an appearance number on his overall statistics. So that's the same back then and it is the same now. So when I was doing a little bit of research around this shirt, I found out a little bit more about David. He was a utility back. He could play on the wing, he could play centre, he could play fullback. He played in various different positions, which made him probably quite valuable in terms of being that number 14 role. If you got an injury anywhere across that back line, he was somebody that was able just to slot in and kind of plug the gap for the remainder of that game. David's a member of the 100 Club, which is wonderful. I had the opportunity of meeting David when he gave me the shirt. We were sat talking for what felt like hours, looking at various programmes and pictures from his career. He's even got his official contract that he first signed when he joined the club in 1966, which was absolutely amazing. And just being able to kind of see elements of history like that, for me, it's absolutely fantastic. So how did I meet David? How did this shirt come into the Hull KR shirts collection? It's a crazy one. A good friend of mine, Dave Shep, he was at a wedding, and it was a friend of his wife's, and as you do at these kind of situations, the lads just get thrown into the corner, and it was like, oh, Dave, here's Dave, meet each other. You both like rugby, off you go. And that was kind of how the conversation started. Dave Shett, my mate, he dropped into conversation with David Wainwright that I was a big shirt collector, and that I liked being able to kind of look at the history of things and sort of see things from the past. And unbelievably, David turned around and said, well, I've got a shirt from my playing days in my cupboard. You can have it if you want. And I always take it with a pinch of salt, because you just never, until something actually comes to fruition, the best thing is to do is never to kind of believe it. But David is such a nice guy. His generosity knows no bounds. He's had this in a drawer for 50 years. And for something to have been in a drawer for 50 years that you've kind of kept on to, it must obviously mean something or enough to you for you to be able to keep on to that. But to be able to go and meet him and tell him a little bit about what I do, why I do it, the passion that I've got for it. This isn't something where, it's not a business to me where I'm trying to make a profit. My losses, if you like, the amount of money that I've poured into my collection is ridiculous. But it's a passion. It's something that I'm really, really passionate about. I love to be able to come on here and talk about these shirts. I love to be able to do exhibitions and show people around them. The elements of creating a digital museum online where people can have a look at various things from over the years. They can reminisce, they can look back at legacy shirts and just feel like those memories to me were really, really special. And that's something which I think David was really sort of enamoured by, in the fact that it could go somewhere where it would actually be looked after, and it's not going to be given to somebody that's just going to go and try and flog it on eBay for £1,000 because it's one of the oldest shirts in Hull KR's existence. It's just one of those things where everything just really flowed in really well. And as I mentioned, we were sat there for a good few hours at his house. He's such a lovely guy, such a really nice guy. We was chatting for ages about some of the players that he played with. David's heritage number is 702. The guy who has number 700 is Roger Millward. He played with Roger. Roger made his debut just a few weeks before David did. So it's really nice to have these sort of stories and these things where you can talk about legends like Frank Foster and sort of Harry Poole and just John Taylor, just all these names that are well before my time. I mean, my dad wasn't born until 1962, and some of these players was playing rugby league before that. It's just absolutely crazy how the elements of knowledge that I've developed over the years from attending heritage groups and talking to people who have played in this era, who are fans in this era. It's without them, there is no now. The club that it is today isn't what it is without the history and the heritage that comes before it. And I think at times that can sometimes get missed. So it's really nice that we're able to kind of like capture these memories and the moments and the memorabilia that have come from these eras, and really be able to sort of just harbour all of that for that next generation, because at some point these people are no longer going to be with us, and those memories and that knowledge and that memorabilia and the photographs and everything is potentially just going to dwindle away. So the longer that we can keep that going on for the next generation to understand all of the different things that came before us, for me, is something that's really, really important. As a guy in his mid-30s, I'm probably one of the younger people who are interested in this kind of thing. So trying to get more people interested in the history and the heritage of the club, for me, is something that I feel really, really, really passionate about. Because like I say, sooner or later that's going to be gone. It's great now in 2025. In 50 years' time, there's going to be all sorts from 2025. Shirts are mass produced. We've got photographs, we've got videos, we've got social media, we've got the internet, all these different things that can host all of these memories for us to be able to look back and reminisce. Whereas what have we really got from the 40s, 50s, 60s in terms of rugby league? It is very minimal as it stands. So it's important that we do keep all of those things rolling, and we really do try and capture as much of that as we can. So yeah, this has been the 1964 to 1972 Hull KR away shirt. Again, David, if this video does manage to find its way to you, thank you so much for allowing it to join the Hull KR shirts collection. I cannot explain and thank you enough how much that means to me. It's now the oldest shirt within the collection. I can now say that the shirt spans 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s and 20s. 7 different decades of Hull KR shirts within the Hull KR shirts collection. That is something that, I didn't think I was going to be able to say until we got to 2030, which will then make it 8 decades, which is just absolutely crazy. It really, really is. Anybody that's got the Hull KR shirts calendar for 2026 will notice that this is the shirt for January. It was the one that I was kind of the most excited to get out there. Like I said, I got this in the summer of 2025, but I've been holding on to it for episode number 150 of Talking Shirts, because it was the shirt that I really wanted to kind of push out there as being a really, really key figure within the collection. Like I say, if it wasn't for David's generosity and having that conversation with my mate Dave Shep, we wouldn't have actually got into a position where this would even be known around. So yeah, sometimes very, very strange things happen in terms of an alignment of being able to sort of keep things alive and remain and generate stories. And yeah, something that, David, honestly, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. So that's everything for episode number 150 of Talking Shirts. I really hope you've enjoyed looking back at this shirt from the 1960s and the 1970s. It's it's a really, really special shirt. It's a special episode. It's a special moment. So thank you very much to anybody that's made it all the way through to the end of this, what will be a very long episode of Talking Shirts. I'll be back in a fortnight. I'll be back with episode number 151. I'm going to do my best to keep the momentum rolling, keep the excitement going as we sort of head now into this 2026 season. Hopefully a fantastic year for Hull KR. February alone with the World Cup Challenge in Vegas. You know, we've got so much to look forward to, and that's without even mentioning York away, and you know, the potential of sort of starting the season really well. It's exciting. It really, really is. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back in a fortnight. Up the Robins.